Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, scholars and dignitaries, welcome to another episode. Welcome to my world. Hello, friends. So everyone knows how much fun it is to gamble. It's exciting, it's thrilling, it's an adventure. People are always laughing and hollering and cheering others on. At least that's what all the commercials show you. And that's the irony of it. On television, you see ads where people are laughing and having a good time gambling. But when you actually walk through those casinos, you never see even one person smiling, much less laughing and having a good time. You see intensity, seriousness, anxiety, depression, even panic. You don't see the laughter and joy that the casinos want you to think happens or that the commercials portray, because the reality is that gamblers lose. They lose often and they can lose big. A terrible plague has been unleashed on this world, another plague, one of many. And no, it isn't COVID I'm speaking about. No, this one is planned and deliberate, and it's a plague that's silent. No one realizes it. It can hit hard and fast, but it erodes slowly, ultimately sending thousands every day into new areas of social, family, and economic dysfunction. Across America and across the world, governments are now approving casinos and numerous types of gambling venues, which are causing people to fall into this newest form of addiction. But this is the silent addiction because people don't see you gambling. People don't see the losses you incur. People don't realize why you're having high levels of anxiety, depression, panic attacks, and even suicidal thoughts. People just don't understand how compulsive gambling causes your personality changes, and how gambling places even greater levels of stress and tension upon individuals and families, many of whom are already living in high levels of dysfunctional homes. Gambling is another risk factor for the family, and compulsive gambling leads to many thousands of personal and family bankruptcies each year. Gambling leads to lost homes, broken families, lost savings accounts, lost college funds, and to a dramatic increase in crime, including embezzlement in business and industry. It's strongly correlated with mental illness, including anxiety disorders, depression, nervous disorders, and suicide, and is associated with a rise in alcohol and drug use and abuse. Furthermore, problem or pathological gambling also seriously affects the spouses, the children, parents, and friends of the problem gambler. Some states have reported that divorce tripled after the introduction of casinos. Others reported an explosion in domestic violence. Compulsive gamblers have increased from 10 million to 20 million over these past few years just in the United States, with the greatest increase in those states that have legalized casino gambling. Last year, gamblers in the U.S. alone lost over $140 billion in gambling, and across the world, gamblers lost hundreds of billions of dollars. So, how large is the problem? Well, researchers have now said that problem gambling is now more common than even alcoholism. All states that have legalized gambling have found subsequent dramatic increases in the incidence of compulsive gamblers and in crime, family dysfunction, divorce, bankruptcy, mental illness, and even prostitution. But by then it's too late. Once legalized, the states cannot reverse the trend and control the increase in the gambling addiction and the negative consequences. Casino gambling is often promoted based upon economic improvements, including more jobs for the local community. But the ultimate cost in broken families, disintegrated communities, and a weaker society from gambling never even comes close to justifying it as a means to raise revenue. There is now ample evidence pointing to exactly the opposite findings. Professor Robert Goodman described the effect that gambling has on local businesses, and he showed significant declines for selected area businesses, such as clothing stores, recreation services, business services, and auto dealerships. Gambling can remove money and resources from the local community and can hurt small businesses and the overall economic development strategy critical for community sustainability and growth. Furthermore, research throughout the nation shows that for every dollar the legalized gambling interests indicate is being contributed for taxes, it usually costs the taxpayers at least $3, and higher numbers have been calculated because of major cost increases in the welfare, mental health, and the criminal justice systems. In other words, you as a taxpayer are subsidizing the carnage that the casinos are causing in your states. The United States has had previous experience with widespread legalized gambling activities. With that proliferation, however, people realized the negative effects and started a trend to prohibit gambling activities. And by 1910, there was virtually no legal gambling in the United States. Gambling activities were not just prohibited by state and local statutes, but these prohibitions were incorporated into the most state constitutions to make it as difficult as possible for future generations to legalize gambling activities. But then, government began to see gambling as a new way to raise tax revenue, and throwing caution to the wind, they jumped full into the gambling paradigm. So, gambling is once again exploding across America and the world. But we aren't ready for the consequences. While many people gamble, some 3 to 5% of people are caught up in an addiction every bit as powerful as drug addiction. And perhaps as much as another 5% could be classified as incidental problem gamblers, where perhaps while not addicted, they often lose money needed for rent, for car payments, for mortgages, and for the bills for daily living, leaving them further in a debt that most people simply can't afford. But for many compulsive gamblers, their families are destroyed, their jobs are lost, their children are devastated, and they've lost all hope. The National Council on Problem Gambling has found this to be true and has also found that pathological gamblers have a suicide rate 20 times higher than non gamblers. They found that some 50% of pathological gamblers borrow on or use up the cash value of their insurance policy or their retirement plans, that they abuse alcohol and demonstrate depression, even to the point of suicidal ideation. Also, again, there has been a significant growth in crime and associated problems in regions that have legalized gambling. And increasingly, there are findings of the negative results on children as well. I have reviewed over 100 gambling studies and articles, and I have yet to find one that says that gambling helps to build positive youth development. I have yet to see one that says that gambling supports healthy families. I have yet to see one that says that gambling builds strong communities. In fact, they all say exactly the opposite. So, what I'm saying is that you don't need to fall for another scheme where people take your money and don't care what happens to you. And believe me, that's exactly what these corporations do. American families are hurting and should not be subjected to yet another family risk factor, another family dysfunction. Hey, be safe, be well. Don't gamble. Your life may depend on it. And may God bless.